paper. We're not really going to use much of this paper, to be honest with you. On the front is some information. On the back is discussion notes. You can make notes there. And there's an activity which we're not going to do, okay? We're not going to do the activity. But I do want to point out on the front, at the bottom, just due diligence on my part, it gives you 2 phrases to use at a close with an employer and with an employee. And for me, they're a little bit wordy, but you can read them on your own. I'll give you a couple of seconds. And everybody has a different personality of how they approach things, right? When you're sitting with the employer, the employee, again, assuming you educated them, you met all objections, everything is cool, and now all you have to do is ask for it, or ask for the sale. They give you 2 examples here. I'm going to talk about some closing phrases that I've used over the years. I will not pretend to be an expert account opener. I've been a 21-year vet, but I do open about 2 to 3 new accounts a year. But my book of business, which is a little bit over 70 employers, had been with my agency for 20, 30, 40 some years. So every year I do have to sell that account again as far as my value and my services, and I have to sell those employees again to keep the programs that they have in place and sell to new employees. So I am constantly closing, right? As we all are every single day. So let's talk about closing statements that I do use when I'm with an employer, okay? If I'm with an employer and I've educated, I met objections, I gave solutions, and now it's time for me to ask for the sale, I simply say, can we work together? I like yes or no questions. That is just me.
Well, that's what a close is.
That is a close.
It's asking for a definitive yes or no.
Yes. And then I make sure that they talk about over and over that if, hopefully they say yes, right? If they say no, there may be another objection or something they're not quite clear on that you have to review, but we're going to assume they say yes. Then you get another calendar date to start the enrollment process. You may do the AAOD call right then and there. If you can't or they don't have time, I find that with an employer, this is my experience because they wear a lot of different hats in their organization, okay? They almost prefer when you tell them when you're coming back, not ask them for dates that are convenient for them. Because they're like, lady, this is never gonna be convenient, right?
Oh.
Right? It's never going to be a good time to roll this out, right? Making a change. Nobody likes to make changes. And there's a lot of back-end stress behind the scenes that we deal with to roll things out properly and effectively and seamlessly, right? Should they know about any of that? No. We are professionals and we stay focused and we keep our composure, okay? So when I am talking to an employer and I ask them simply, can we work together? I know that they're sold on what I'm doing. And they say yes, then I say to them, okay, I was thinking I can come back Monday at 1 o'clock. I don't say, does that work for you? Is that convenient? If it doesn't work for them, they're gonna let me know. I'm not here Monday, or I have a meeting at Monday at 1, can you come at 2? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. Now I'm being flexible with them, and I'm not being too aggressive, right? I'm just doing my thing, right? Okay. When I'm with an employee, and I'm sitting with them and I'm doing my one-on-one. Because how many situations have we been, that's the purpose of our business, right, too, right? One-on-one education, this is the most important part of your career. Not even getting in the door with the employer, because how many accounts have we opened and only sold 2 people, right? And you're like, really? I thought this was going to be so good, right? So sometimes the little ones surprise you, or even the big ones, and you're like, oh my gosh, I did so well in there, right? And so when I'm sitting with an employee, and again, we're assuming I educated them, I answered all objections, I gave them an overview of what is available to them, either direct or through an employer. My next words to that employee is, or that direct person, tell me what you want to talk about now. I gave you an overview, what do you want to talk about? And that really takes the pressure off of me of having them glaze over and not even give a rip about me talking about cancer when they're only interested in disability. So I let them direct me what they want to know about now. Now, it might be 1 program, it might be 3, it might be 2. When I'm done explaining it and they know the cost, okay, I integrate that in, and they know the cost per pay or what monthly, however they're setting it up, I say to them, do you have any questions? No, you covered everything, great, wow, you were really thorough. Okay, great. Are these the plans that you want to set up for September 1st? That's my closing line. I assume I have the sale. I do not say, What do you want to do?
You don't ask for a hidden objection?
No,
Okay.
I don't. If they have an objection, they will voice it to me. Now, throughout my career, 21 years, okay, a couple of times I've had not really free time, but I guess I was interested to know, like in a certain time span, how many people I was sitting with versus closing. And I'll tell you what I figured out at some point in my career, because I really don't remember when it was. Every 5 people I was sitting with, employees or whatever, I was closing 3 of them on the spot. That's pretty good, right? And I was like, wow, you know, like, what am I doing to close it? And the thing is, I'm assuming I have the sale. And I'm also flexible. Though. So let me just backtrack for a minute here, because I don't want to contradict myself and have you guys gone, what is she talking about? How many times have you know that you have the sale and they say, I definitely want disability, but I want to go home and talk to my spouse about it? Because it could be a budget issue, right? If you make a face to that, try to push for the sale, your answer should always be absolutely let me know by Friday. Because you will lose that sale if you try to push it. And you show a little bit of desperation there for the sale. That is not our job to be desperate. We are education, we educate them and we show them the value of what we do, and we genuinely help people. So we should not be pushing for any type of sale. If you're talking an employer or an employee into a program, if you're talking them into it, I'm telling you from experience, let it go. They will be your worst nightmare. The worst nightmare of an account or a policy holder. Let it go. Always undersell, never oversell. If somebody wants all 5 programs and you know they make $13, okay? I'm getting off the subject. Okay, I'm sorry. You will retain that customer is what I'm talking about, okay? Now, closing statements for the employer, I told you, can we work together? For the employee, what's worked for me in the past is saying, is this the plan, or are these the plans you want to start for September 1st? Yes or no questions, right? Now, how many of us have closed an account at this table? I don't know who's new. Okay, all of us, right? Okay, so let's start with you. What was your closing phrase when you closed an account that you were really excited about? Like you left and you're like, I nailed that.
Well, I think I use the defined contribution.
Defined contribution close? Okay, so when you're at the end of the conversation though with the employer, right? And you want a commitment from him, what are you saying?
I've only closed a few accounts, but basically just setting the next appointment, like when are we going to
Setting the next appointment, right? And is it right? And can we work together? Like they're on board, right? Okay. What about you?
Simply, when can we roll this out?
Okay. Do you think that's open-ended for an objection, or them not to think it's convenient right now?
Well, as you said, we're already assuming that we've covered all the objections. There is no hidden one.
Well, let's talk about convenience.
I still do it a little old school, not necessarily. I mean, I always go for defined comp. But if I don't get it, my close is something like, if 3 of your valued employees would like to take advantage
I love that phrase.
of the ability to participate in AFLAC, is there any reason that you wouldn't want to move forward?
Exactly.
Great, that's awesome. Welcome to the AFLAC family. Let's get out our calendars and see when we can
I like
get
that
together.
too, the Affleck family. I like that too. Okay, what about you?
Mine was also defined contribution.
Define? All right, well, let's assume, because there could be defined and there could not be defined. How are you getting the employer to commit to the close?
Well, it wasn't necessarily myself that was the one running the meeting per se. It was one of the DSCs that was with me.
Okay.
I've only been doing this for 3 weeks, or 3 months rather.
Well, you're very, very new.
Yeah, I'm an
Sorry.
intern.
All right, I didn't know. Okay, what about you?
Basically, it's very similar to what he does as far as like, okay, when can we roll this out? When is a good time, and that kind of thing.
Right, so you're getting a calendar date, right? That's important, and a sense of urgency too. Now, another thing is, as I don't want to go over and over some things, but we have a short period of time together, and I'll get to you in just a second, okay? When you're creating a sense of urgency, for me, for example, I can only talk about my own experiences. Second and fourth quarters for me are just like, I blink and they're done, okay? So when I'm talking to a potential client and they're like, I might be available next month to roll this out or whatever, I need to create a sense of urgency like, listen, I am busy from this time to this time and I need to roll this out now, because if we don't, it opens up your employees for exposure of not having this protection.
There you go.
right?
There you go. Yep,
Okay.
That's it.
Sense of urgency. Okay.
Yep, I can't tell you how many times I've been put off, and then something happened,
Right.
and I could have helped them.
Right,
And,
exactly.
you know,
Same here.
And you're like
and
a
it just
day
breaks my
late,
heart,
$1 short.
because that's why I do what I do.
I know. How about you?
I do the same thing.
Yeah?
I say, okay, so generally how we roll this out is we go ahead, and if it's okay with you, we'll go ahead and set up the employee presentation, get the information out to your employees. And I have, so today's what, Thursday? So I would say maybe Tuesday. For Tuesday, that way I can set the enrollment up for next Thursday.
I love that because, women tend to be a little bit more detailed with that. Like they are setting up not only the next appointment, but the next 2 steps. And I love that. And I'm not nothing about the men, because you might do this, I don't know you, but it just seems like the tables that I've been sitting with, when I get to the women, they're like, well, I tell them I'll be back on Monday, and then Thursday what we're going to do is, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like you have it down. Like they know exactly what
Doesn't always work that way.
No, it doesn't, but it doesn't overwhelm them
Right.
either,
Right.
because they're like, okay, this is a plan, you know?
Well, I would assume, though, by this point, they already know that you're not going to ask them to make a decision on the spot.
Right.
Typically, here's how it goes.
Are we
Mr.
talking the employer or the employee?
Employer. Yeah, typically Mr. Employer or Mrs. Ms. It, whatever it is. What we do is we present the information, and then I send them home with it to talk with loved ones or other concerned parties, and then we generally follow up about 48 hours later and sit with them one-on-one.
You're putting the employer at ease that we are not going to be aggressive with your employee.
Exactly, but that's part of the
employer.
earlier conversation. So by the time I ask for the close and let's pull out our calendars, they already know I'm following up 48 hours
Exactly.
later, right?
And I like that. I like that a lot. Now, home office gave me some examples of closing phrases. There's 4 of them. And I'm going to not try to be an actress here, but I want you to tell me the only one that I like. Okay?
Sure.
Okay.
The only one that what?
That I like.
You like.
The only one that I like. But everybody's different. You might like something else. Okay, so there's 4 of them. All right, the first one is, would you allow us to do the same thing for you? The second one is, I'm sure you can see the value in how we can help you. The third one is, so you see what we are talking about makes sense, right? And the last one is, could you see how partnering together could benefit you and your employees? Which one do you think I like? 4.
Last one.
The last one.
The
Now,
rest are trial closes. They're not the final.
huh?
The rest are what I would call a trial
Well,
close.
I'll tell you, the rest open up room for
They're
more
like value building
objections
statements.
and more delays. Now, this is just my opinion. I was looking at these and I thought, wow, but listen, I'm not an expert in account closing, but I'm just thinking, I make statements. I'm not a big fan of questions. And I know, can we work together is a question, but it's also a statement.
Yeah, it's also very similar to that.
It is.
Could you see how partnering together?
Exactly.
Right. The trial
Exactly.
close. It's a statement followed by a question. Wouldn't you agree? Can you see how this would help?
What about the truth close? I really like that, right?
Yes, I like that
So
too.
what you're doing back to a business owner or an employee is you're stating back to them what their concerns were that they were talking to you about, the solution you found them to handle the concerns, and now can we proceed? And this is what we're going to do.
Absolutely. All day long. That's the
That's
whole purpose
brilliant.
of
That's brilliant, and it's other centered, and everybody's on board, right? They can't. And if another objection comes up, which again, hopefully you answered all of them, but it is a lot of material or things to think about, right? You just handle it, and never, ever, ever. And I'm sure we all know this. Be afraid to say, I don't know. If you don't know the answer to something, I don't know. But here's the key more than that. If you're going to tell somebody, employer or employee, that you're going to find out, you find out within 2 business days and you get back to them. If it's a week or 2 later, don't even bother, because they don't care. They don't care.
Yep.
You have to do your job well, you have to do it efficiently, you have to be professional. And you have to show really good customer service, because once you get that employee or that account, what do you have to do? You have to maintain it, right? Otherwise, what was the point of doing any of it?
That's right.
Right.
Just be yourself and be honest.
Be yourself and be
Real people.
honest. That's right.
And I have a question.
Okay, yes.
So how do you, say you go through everything, you show the value, do the discovery, you find their pain points, and then you give them their value proposition. When you go for the close and they say, let me think about it, or I'll get back to you, what would you say to counteract that?
Is that employer or employee?
Employer.
Employer, you can say, I mean, look, if you were pushy with them, you're going to turn them off. There's a little internal switch that will just go bleep, right? They're done. You can say to them, okay, that's fine. How about you let me know by Thursday the 25th? You still try to put a timeline on their thought process.
Got it.
That's my thought idea on that.
I usually say, okay, I can respect that. I understand, this is a lot to take in. But just for my own edification, what is it that you feel you need to think about? Because that's going to draw out that hidden objection.
Right. Well, yeah. Okay. See, that's very good. Sorry, I didn't even think of that. I was thinking just strictly closing, and then we handled all the objections. But because I do have people say, I want to talk to my spouse. I want the weekend to look the brochure over. But he's talking about employers, so thank you.
So was I.
Yeah. No. Thank you for interjecting. So what he said.
Okay.
Okay. Look how good that worked out. What he said.
Fair.
Perfect.
Okay, so now we're going to stop briefly and we're going to do an exercise, okay? All right, everybody gets a dice.
Hey. We doing shots?
I know, right? I don't drink, I wish I did.
Hey!
All right, so this is what I'm going to do. This is the dice exercise. You guys are going to have 30 seconds, and I'll tell you when to start, to roll as many sixes as you can in 30 seconds.
Does that count?
No.
And I'll let you know when there's 5 seconds left. Okay, so just give me a second to set this up.
2 minutes, table leaders. You have 2 minutes.
All right.
Wrap it up.
And count your sixes to yourself, because when you hear other people, you lose track of what you got going on. Okay? All right, guys, go. And you're done. Okay. How many did you get? 4. 4?
2.
2?
7.
7?
Wow, 5.
5? 4. Okay. That's great, everybody. You don't get a prize, all right? But I'm going to explain what this does.
You're going down to the lobby.
I'm going downstairs.
There.
Oh, cool.
All right, I'm going to explain the dice exercise to you, okay? The number 6 represents the number of closes you get versus the number of rolls you had to do. Okay, so the more people you get in front of, employer or employees, the better chances you have of closing. Okay, now dice is a little bit of luck. Okay, none of them were loaded for you. All right, except for mine. But anyway, the point is, the more people you get in front of, the more you hone in on your skills and your skill set, and get you have better verbiage that you learn to use, and you feel more comfortable and more confident. The more closes you're going to have. When I told you had 5 seconds left, I'm impressed with this table because a couple of the other tables were doing this. Dice were flying. A panic started to set in. Everybody kind of just kept, all right, 5 seconds, let me see. And I like that because you kept your composure. You didn't panic at the end. And that goes back to, you want the close and you only have a couple of minutes left to get it, right? Or you think you only have a couple of minutes left to get it, and they feel the desperation, right? And you panic and you don't stay focused. So everybody did a great job with that. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.